Right now, if you get bored, you reach for something. Your phone. A video. A game. A message. In seconds, you can fill your mind with entertainment. Millions of videos, endless music, and more information than any person could consume in a lifetime. And yet people still get bored. Now imagine the opposite. No phone. No books. No television. No internet. No music. Not even writing. Just you, a fire, and a long night ahead. For most of human history, that wasn't unusual. It was normal. Thousands of generations lived before cities, before farming, before roads and kingdoms. They spent their days finding food, making tools, and staying alive. But here's a question almost nobody asks. What happened when the work was finished? What did ancient humans do when there was nothing left to hunt, nothing left to gather, and hours still remaining in the day? Did they simply sit in silence? Did they stare into the flames and wait for tomorrow? Or did those quiet moments change human history forever? Because hidden inside boredom may be the reason humans created art, invented music, told stories, and began asking questions about the world around them. The answer is much stranger than it seems. And it begins with a discovery that completely changed what scientists thought they knew about the lives of our ancient ancestors. For a long time, scientists assumed ancient humans were simply too busy to get bored. Survival looked like a full-time job. Every day was supposed to be a struggle for food, water, and shelter. The idea of free time seemed impossible. But that picture turned out to be wrong. When anthropologists studied modern hunter-gatherer groups, they found something surprising. Many spent far less time working than people expected. Once food was collected and daily needs were met, large parts of the day remained open. That changes everything. If our ancestors weren't working every waking hour, then they faced something familiar to all of us. Empty time. An empty time creates a problem. The human brain doesn't like sitting still. Give it nothing to focus on, and it begins searching for something interesting. Something new. That's why boredom matters. It wasn't a modern invention caused by offices, schools, or smartphones. It may have existed for tens of thousands of years. The real question isn't whether ancient humans got bored. It's what they did next when their minds started looking for something more. One of the first things ancient humans did with their free time was something completely unnecessary. They decorated themselves. That sounds strange at first. If survival was difficult, why spend time making things that couldn't help you hunt, gather food, or build shelter? Yet archaeologists have found ancient shell beads, carved ornaments, and pieces of red ochre used as body paint dating back tens of thousands of years. These objects weren't tools. They weren't weapons. They weren't food. Someone made them simply because they wanted to. Think about how much effort that required. A shell had to be collected, shaped, drilled, and prepared using nothing but simple stone tools. Hours of work could go into a single piece. For what? Not survival. Expression. The human brain doesn't enjoy doing nothing for long. Once people's basic needs were met, they started experimenting. They played with colors, shapes, and patterns. They created things that had meaning beyond survival. Those simple decorations were more than ornaments. They were some of the earliest signs that humans wanted to create, not just survive. And that desire may have started with boredom. Decoration wasn't the only thing ancient humans created when they had free time. They also created music. One of the oldest musical instruments ever discovered is a flute made from the bone of a bird. It dates back roughly 40,000 years. That means long before cities, farming, or written history, someone sat down and carefully carved holes into a piece of bone. But why? A flute can't help you hunt. It can't build a shelter. It can't keep you warm during winter. It exists for one reason: sound. Somewhere in the distant past, a person had enough spare time to experiment. They blew air through a hollow bone and discovered something remarkable. Different holes created different notes. A simple object suddenly became music.
Humans are naturally attracted to rhythm and patterns. Even today, a song can capture attention within seconds.
Ancient humans likely felt the same pull.
Around campfires, music may have entertained groups during long evenings and brought people together. What started as a way to fill empty hours became something much greater.
It became one of humanity's oldest forms of expression. Music did something important. It gave the mind somewhere to go. And that leads to a bigger idea. Boredom may have helped create imagination itself. Think about what boredom really is. To feel bored, you have to believe something else could be happening. You have to compare the present moment to a different reality that exists only inside your mind. That is a remarkable ability. Most animals live almost entirely in the present. They react to what is in front of them. Humans can do something different. We can imagine futures that have not happened in places we have never seen. Now picture an ancient human sitting beside a fire at night. The day's work is finished. The hunt is over. There is nothing left to do but think. And once the mind begins to wander, questions appear. What is beyond those hills? What happens if the hunt fails tomorrow? Where does the sun go at night? What happens when people die? These questions don't come from survival.
They come from imagination. The brain, when given empty time, starts creating possibilities.
Some are useful. Some are frightening. Some are impossible. But all of them push human thinking beyond the present moment. And that may have been one of boredom's greatest gifts. Once humans learned to imagine things that weren't directly in front of them, they began asking questions. Big questions.
For most of history, the world was full of mysteries.
Storms appeared without warning. The sun disappeared each night and returned each morning. People died and never came back. Nobody knew why.
But the human mind struggles with unanswered questions.
When people have time to think, they naturally search for explanations.
Picture a group sitting around a fire thousands of years ago.
The day's work is finished. Darkness surrounds them. Above them are countless stars. Soon, someone asks a question. What happens after death? Who controls the weather? Why are we here?
No one has the answers, but the conversation continues.
Ideas become stories. Stories spread from person to person and from generation to generation.
Over time, some of those stories grow into beliefs.
Those beliefs help people understand fear, uncertainty, and the unknown. In many ways, religion may have begun when imagination met curiosity.
A wandering mind looked at the world and searched for meaning. And that search started with a simple question.
Why? But imagination and belief were only part of the story. Ancient humans also discovered something even more powerful. Storytelling. When the hunt was over and the fire was burning low, people gathered together. They talked about what happened during the day. They talked about other people.
They shared experiences, warnings, and memories.
At first, these conversations may have seemed unimportant. They weren't. A story can carry information across time. One person learns a lesson. 10 people hear it.
The entire group becomes smarter without facing the danger themselves. That's a remarkable advantage.
Imagine a hunter returning to camp after seeing a predator near a river.
Instead of every person learning that lesson the hard way, one story could protect the whole group.
Over thousands of years, stories became more than survival tools. They became entertainment. Heroes appeared. Villains appeared.
Myths, legends, and traditions began to spread.
And as stories grew more complex, language grew with them. People needed better ways to describe events, emotions, and ideas. Every conversation pushed communication a little further.
In a strange way, boredom may have helped create the very thing that separates humans from every other species.
Not tools. Not fire. But the ability to share entire worlds using nothing more than words.
For a long time, boredom had a bad reputation.
People saw it as wasted time, a sign that nothing useful was happening. But modern psychology tells a different story.
When your mind isn't focused on a task, something unusual happens. The brain begins turning inward.
It starts connecting ideas, replaying memories, and exploring possibilities. This is why some of your best ideas appear in unexpected moments. While taking a walk, while sitting quietly, while staring out a window. Scientists have found that creative thinking often increases when people experience periods of boredom. Without constant stimulation, the brain is forced to generate its own entertainment. That's exactly what ancient humans experienced.
They didn't have endless notifications, videos, or screens competing for their attention.
They had silence.
And inside that silence, the mind got to work.
New ideas appeared. Stories evolved. Questions formed.
Solutions emerged. What looked like doing nothing was actually a powerful mental process.
In many ways, boredom acted like a training ground for human creativity. It encouraged people to imagine, experiment, and think beyond the present moment. The same ability that helped ancient humans create culture is still working inside your brain today. So here's the strange truth: when ancient humans got bored, they didn't waste time. They created the things that made us human. A bored person carved a bead. Another made a flute.
Others sat around fires telling stories, asking questions, and imagining worlds beyond the one they could see.
Those quiet moments changed history.
Today, we live in a world filled with endless distractions. The moment boredom appears, we reach for a screen and make it disappear.
But for most of human history, boredom wasn't something to avoid. It was an opportunity.
It gave the mind space to wander, create, and discover.
In a way, every great idea begins the same way. Someone stops, looks into the silence, and starts wondering what comes next.